Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to our second panel for OE Week, Open Education Week. My name is Linda Kavashigawa. I'm a librarian at FCC. There's several of you who were here yesterday as well as today, but several new people. So I'm excited that new people are coming in to hear about the open educational and zero cost and low cost materials that our faculty are using here on campus across the disciplines. So I'm just giving a welcome because I am I've taken over Sally Potter's position of the OER liaison to the California Community Colleges Academic Senate. So I'm new to the role. I'm still learning a lot about OER and zero cost, but I'm a huge advocate for it and excited that we're able to showcase what our faculty are doing. So I'm going to send it over to Sally so she can give you an overview of what's going to happen.
Okay, just really quickly, and I know about half of you were here yesterday, so, hold on, nope, hold on. Hold on, I can't talk and share screen at the same time. Okay, okay. So just really quickly, want to go through just a few things with you. Again, we're going to do this really fast because about half of you were here yesterday. But welcome, just really excited about spreading the word about OER and ZTC and low cost materials, trying to provide the best materials for our students at the lowest possible cost that we can. And we do have an FCC OER work group. If anyone is interested, you can ask me, you can ask Linda, and we can get you involved with that if you're interested. Okay, so the very first thing that I wanted to tell you about is this acronym that you've seen before. You probably heard it before. It's OER, Open Educational Resources. And what this is referring to is any kind of materials, any kind of resources that you can use in your class. And it's talking about the license. So it's talking about how it is copyrighted, okay? So this when you're saying, like, why would an author do this? Why would someone create something and then just put this open license on it? It is the exact same idea. It is as if you're in your department and everyone is doing a similar project or some similar thing, and you've created maybe a handout or a quiz, and you know that your colleagues can use it, and they might even change it or improve it a little bit, and so you just share it with them. You just give it to them. You either give them a paper copy or you send them the Word document, and you just say, here you go. This is for the good of our students, because I like you and I care about you and I don't want you to have to recreate the wheel. Here it is. And so this is the same thing that these authors are doing, except they're doing it on a larger scale and they don't necessarily know you. Okay, so the whole thing has to do with the licensing. And this is something that does give instructors a little bit of anxiety when they're looking at this, because this is kind of the legal part of it and it can be a little bit confusing. There are all these different licenses and they all have these different definitions with these little symbols, and everything can be a little hard to interpret. But when you're looking at this chart, it's the licenses at the top are the most open. It means you can do the most with them, and then they go down to be the least open. And usually the ones that you'll see on what are true OER or open resources are these top two, the CCC BY, or the CC BY, and the CC BY SA. And so what the BY means is that you just have to put the author's name or the organization that created it. That's all they want you to do, is just make sure you can use it. You can do whatever you want. You can change it. You can alter it, whatever you want. You just have to give credit to whoever made it, okay? The SA means share alike, and all that means is that you cannot change the license. So you could do whatever you want to it, including charge for it if you want. You can charge money for it, but you can't put it under a more restrictive license. Okay, so those are usually the ones that you see. If you are just using resources, that's really the extent of what you have to understand. You really only have to get into the nitty gritty details here if you are taking something and really, remixing it and re-editing it and then putting it out, or writing your own and creating your own thing. Okay. But if you're just using it for your class, most of the time when you do use an open source, when you copy it, you're copying and you're using that source, either linking to it or actually grabbing it and, embedding it in your class. A license will actually come with the source, so that you'll see, a little symbol or a little this either an explanation or this little symbol down at the bottom somewhere. And so that's all you need to worry about. If you don't see something like that, they do have these, what are called these attribution builder sites. And this is really similar to like an APA citation generator or an MLA citation generator, where, we're asking students to put the citation in, and they, you enter the title, you enter the website, you enter all the information that you enter what the license is, and then it will create the license for you. And what it looks like is down here at the bottom, you can see I created this using this attribution builder, and there are many online, many different universities have them, and this is just one that I found. So it does give the hyperlinks. This is real fancy, but it's not something that you would necessarily have to have. Okay. The idea here again is that these authors are really generous with their materials, and they want as many people to use them as they can. And so if you make a mistake on this, the most that's going to happen is someone's just going to say, hey, put that on there, use it the right way, put the source on there. There's no, police that are going to come after you or anything like that, because the idea is that we want to have, again, that they want as many people to use it as possible. Okay, one more acronym that I'll introduce you to, and that is ZTC. So these zero textbook cost materials are all over the place. The best place that you can look is your library. And this is one of the reasons why I'm really super excited about having Linda as part of our OER team and our liaison for Fresno City College, because the library has all these resources that students have access to. They're not openly licensed, they are copyrighted, but because our students have access to them, many of these resources, we can take them and we can put them in our classes. And as long as you're putting it in Canvas, it's behind that authentication, whatever credentials. And so it's perfectly legal to do that. It's just as if you had sent a student out to find the source on their own. You're just doing the legwork for them and giving it to them, but they have access to all of these things. So if you can't find what you're looking for in the openly licensed materials, the next place to look is your library, and asking your friendly librarian, making a good relationship with a librarian, and they can do a lot to help you and get you the materials that you need. Another place that we have a lot of access to free materials, and when it comes to my turn, I'm going to show you this a lot, are websites. So there's a lot of free information that is out there for many disciplines, and we can use anything that is online. You can either link to it, or you can, copy the text and take it. It's better to do that and make an accessible document if you know how to do that. I'm using the the styles and the bullet points, and making sure that your pictures have the alt text and all that stuff. And if you are unfamiliar with how to do that, I want to say that Sue Yang, who is here, who's our instructional designer for FCC, can lead you in the right direction. I can certainly help with that as well. And there are lots of people who can help you to just fix it up and make sure that it's good for students who have screen readers, so that they can have access to the material as well. It's also just part of a universal design for learning, good practice to get into. The last part is writing your own. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting that you go out and sit down and write a 300 to 400 page textbook from scratch. However, we're all doing that, especially now that we're online. Everything that we're putting in writing, all of those instructions, all of those videos that we're making of our lectures, all of those transcripts of the videos, all of the explanation documents that we're giving, that is, our materials that we're writing. And so that is part of the materials of your course. So just keep in mind, those are all things that we can use to sort of replace a textbook, okay? So as we're going through the instructors' courses and what they're going, or the materials that they're going to show you, just keep a couple things in mind. The criteria that you use to choose your current textbooks. What was that? And, do you remember back to what made you choose this particular textbook? A lot of times, we don't really have a choice because the departments have made the choice for us, or perhaps there's, a choice of 2 or 3 that we have, and there may be, I don't know, just the reason, what is the reason why? The other thing that I really want you to investigate, if you do not know the answer to this, is how much does that textbook cost? So let me just really quickly tell you my OER origin story, and that is, I believe it was 2016. I didn't know anything about OER. I was at the online teaching conference, the OTC, which is in Anaheim every summer. And it was kind of a session. There was really nothing. It's a huge conference, but there was really nothing that I wanted that session. So I just kind of wandered into an OER one. It was, kind of, wasn't really thinking that I was going to learn anything from it. And I just sat down. It wasn't really packed. And one of the first things that the presenter did was ask us to look up how much our textbooks cost. Okay, so this is my textbook that I used to use, and it's, I don't know if you can really see this, but it's very flimsy. This is actually 2010. It's the 5th edition. I looked it up. There are no more recent editions. So this is it. This is what it is. It doesn't, oh no. Okay, I don't know what happened there. So it does not have any color pictures. It's just very, the paper is real thin, and I've had this for a million years, so it's pretty beat up. But, I didn't love it. I didn't love it, didn't hate it. I used over a good portion of it, maybe like 2/3 of it for my class. And, the other parts of it weren't really relevant. It's really too much for class. And plus I bring in, more articles and that kind of thing, which most people do. So, I'm thinking my 1990s college experience of how much textbook costs. I'm thinking it's like $40, $45, maybe $50, get a brand new. So I did that, I used my phone, looked it up on, this was back in the days when, I believe it's when we used to use those carbon paper. If you remember how to order our textbooks, wasn't even electronic. And even when we went to the electronic ordering, there's nowhere on those forms anywhere that says the cost of your book. You have to know the ISBN number, you have to know the date, all the information, but the cost is never displayed anywhere. So I just had no idea. So I looked it up and I found out that this piece of crap, sorry, excuse my language, costs $106. And I was just absolutely just flabbergasted by that. I couldn't believe that I was charging my students over $100, each and every one of them. And, oh, this is why so many show up to my class with the 4th edition and, not the 5th edition. This is why so many don't ever buy the book and they just try to, get the information from my lectures and they're not able to do the exercises. This is the reason why, because that textbook was so expensive. So just look it up is what I'm saying. Okay. And then one more thing, as you're thinking about this, just try to, in your mind, I know for some disciplines, there is an off-the-shelf textbook that's right there. It's all created. It's, it has all the chapters that you need that perfectly align. Well, okay, perfectly aligned to your SLOs, sort of, kind of. You actually, usually those textbooks have way too much and you have to edit them down because they just throw everything in the kitchen sink in there because it has to be, able to be used by everyone. So so there are some disciplines that are like that, but there are many disciplines that are not, and linguistics is one of them. The courses that I teach. There is no good textbook for this discipline that we have for intro class. So what we had to do was really look for sources, start, really with our SLOs and what our objectives were, and then looking for materials that help the students meet those objectives. Rather than, I think, what most instructors probably do, which is, especially when you first start, and of course I did this when I first started teaching, is you take your textbook and you start with chapter 1. And then when you're done with chapter 1, you teach chapter 2. And then when you're done with chapter 2, you teach chapter 3, and so on. But then, as you learn that you can't just do that because that doesn't fit your SLOs, now you're jumping all over the place, leaving things out, pulling more things in. And so you're probably already sort of doing that. So just kind of, thinking about that in your mind as we go through. Okay, I am now going to turn it over to our first presenter. So let me stop sharing. And
Ali,
yes.
Before we move on, do you want to answer the question in the chat?
Yeah, so I wasn't able to look and see what the questions were.
I can read it for you.
Okay,
It's from Lee. And he says, I was under the impression that our course must have some sort of official textbook. Are we as instructors allowed to write all the written materials for the course? I'm in biology, if that helps with the answer.
Okay, so one thing, Lee, I want to tell you, and I don't think Carl made it, but Carl Johansson, who you probably know, is the person that you want to talk to about this. And I've had conversations with him. He has, these materials that he's using. So definitely that's the answer for biology. But your bigger answer is, it depends. So what you have to do, and this is sometimes a little bit more difficult for the part-time instructor, especially because you're working at different colleges and it's harder to keep track. But you want to try to, you want to look at your course outline of record. And most of those course outline of records, what they're going to have is a list of textbooks, and that are and I think maybe someone can help me out here, Marianne, if you know that. I think they're recommended, right? And so what that means is that technically those are the books that you should use, or something like that. Now, if you're going to use something else, then legally you can, as long as it's equivalent, but you probably have to, double check with your department chair to make sure that, that the materials that you're using cover the SLOs. There is a really, really big push right now with the state of California, and actually all over, to include more OER in those course outlines of record, so that it's not just an option, but that it actually is written on the course outlines of record, because there's a lot of money behind this. Because cheap and free textbooks are very closely correlated with better outcomes for students. And the state has seen this, the feds have seen this, they're giving all kinds of money to this because it's sort of like a piece of the puzzle that's missing for student success and retention. And so from the higher ups, yes, they want you to do that. But this is still a departmental decision on what exactly the materials that you can use. So definitely talk to Carl, and then he can tell you, how to navigate that and what to do from there. Does that help, Lee?
She might also want to talk with Diane DeFreitas, our curriculum chair, about what needs to be on the course outline of record in order for the course to articulate, because that's the issue.
Yeah, and so I know that there are OER that exists for biology. There's tons of things, and Carl's using something. So, it's out there. It's kind of dependent on your discipline, and things are changing. Every semester things change. So, but yes, definitely do talk to that. And if you don't know, who those people are or their contact information, stick around at the end or send me an email or a little message here, and I can give you their email addresses so you can contact them directly. Okay, perfect. Okay, and then I think we want to just go in the order of the list. So Joellen, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Hold on just a minute. Let me share my screen. Okay. I came on board in August of 2016, and in my DS23 class is the business statistics class. So on the first day, I introduced the textbook, and 3 weeks later, only 10% of my students had purchased the textbook. And I asked them why. And a student showed me a snapshot of the price within the bookstore, and it was $320. So, and that book did not have access codes for homework. So what we did is I allowed the students to use the older edition of the textbook. And ultimately, the textbook was changed. Still, the students, I had students who would fail the class because they couldn't afford the book. And we had the homeworks connected with the book. So someone introduced me, actually, Juanita Hester Hayes introduced me to Open Stats Introduction to Statistics book. And I tried the book. The book was free. And I went to a conference on OER, and they mentioned an open source homework platform. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't transfer, is you get the OER book, but you don't get the associated homework. So this was an open source platform. And so I could go in and I looked at the library. They have a number of different topics in the library. You can use their questions. You can actually take questions and alter them. And you can also, and they're all using random numbers, so that each time of a student asks for a new question, there is a new answer associated with it. So you don't have to worry about running out of questions. Sometimes the publisher will have maybe 20 different questions of one type, but this is an endless supply. So not only did I have a free ebook, but I had free homework. And I worked with that. And then I noticed that I wanted to make some changes to the books. So I also met, when I was at the OER conference, someone who had a new platform called LibreText. And I wanted to take 2 OER books and I wanted to merge them. I wanted to use certain chapters in one book and certain chapters in the other. And LibreText they allow you to remix it. So you can pull in different chapters. Not only can you pull in different chapters, you can go in and actually in each of the chapters, edit the material. So it's exactly how you want to teach it. And not only that, you can include video, you can include programming notebooks. So if they needed to run some code, they could do it right from the textbook. And they had other JavaScript apps that you can pull into your book. Not only that, if you wanted to print it, they would also, you would be able to print it on that particular website. So this is the LibreText platform that I customized my business statistics book, and I pulled it into the classroom just using the OER, not the OER, but the URL from libretext.org. Okay, and everybody can just request, you can go here and request an instructor sign in, and to be able to do that. And if you look here, they have the different libraries are biology, business, chemistry, engineering, Spanish, geoscience, humanities, mathematics, medicine, physics, social sciences, and statistics. And so you can look and see what they have. You can remix according to what you want to do. And I really like this. And that's the end of my my presentation. Stop. Okay, I see some questions. Are the questions? Oh, those are not for me.
I don't see any questions. Thank you.
You're muted.
Yeah, I was just trying to get your attention. I just looked on the website. And I haven't spent much time, obviously, just a few seconds, but are there any foreign language besides German resources, do you know, on LibreText site? Besides Spanish, I teach German.
Not that I know of. I don't think so. Yeah. Not yet.
But you can start one.
Yeah, isn't the point of LibreText that you go out and you find what's there, like what you would find what's there available in German, and then you would use LibreText to organize it if you want to use multiple sources. So just because you're not seeing it there doesn't mean that there's not OER available in German. You have to go find it and then organize it in LibreText.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, so Marianne, you ready?
Sure. And I just said that as if I know what I'm talking about. I just learned about LibreText like yesterday from Joe Ellen.
Yeah,
But I think that was, and I'm really
is like a whole like.
Let me also say they also have conferences, so they can teach you exactly how to do all of these things. So if you're interested, sign up for an instructor sign in and ask them to let you know when the next conference is.
Yeah, I'm super excited about learning about LibreText because as I create more content myself and also find resources from different sources, I am wanting to mix and match a lot more, and so I'm excited to do that in LibreText. But let me share, I guess, my story, and I'll share my screen. Do you see my screen? Just my Google? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So if there's anybody in the room who doesn't know me, I teach psychology. And so I guess my story starts with the psych department has for years, I mean, 20 years, we've been talking about and been putting in our program review that we wanted to use lower cost textbooks. 20 years ago, there were no open resources, at least that I knew of, but we were talking about lower cost textbooks. And working toward that and really examining what options were out there from publishers, you know, our standard textbooks. And in, I don't know, 2014 or something, we started having conversations about maybe we should be using the same textbook, at least maybe the full-time psychology instructors. There are only 4 of us. Maybe we can find one low-cost textbook that we all like. We've never done that before, use the same textbook. So we began this journey to try to find a low-cost textbook that we all loved. And so as we were doing that, I started to look at OER, and I literally just started with the Google search, right? So that's what you're seeing. You're seeing if I put in OER psychology, what do I get? Because that's where I started. And if you just click on the very first one that comes up, it's what's happening at Humboldt State University. And there's all these great resources there, right? There's BC Open Textbooks, there's Lumen, there's Merlot, there's NOBA, there's OpenStax. And what you see on the side here is there are other disciplines that Humboldt is using OER for. So maybe you see something there that applies to you. And I trust Humboldt State, right? So this is like a good resource just to start out. So that started giving me some ideas. And I think there's one from a university. Let's click on this one. I think this is Iowa. Iowa State University also has some ideas for OER. So NOBA kept coming up in my search, NOBA. So I started to really explore NOBA. And the other thing that I did was I belong to Division 2 of the American Psychological Association. That's the teaching division of APA. And I as a part of that, I belong to what's called the TOP group, so Teaching of Psychology group. And they have a Facebook page, Facebook group that I belong to. And so I started asking questions there with my colleagues right across Facebook, so across the country, maybe even the world. Who teach psychology. And OpenStax and NOBA are the ones that come up a lot. So I started to explore NOBA. This is the NOBA site, the NOBA project for psychology. And I guess I'll log in because I did create my very first OER textbook in NOBA. Let me log in real quickly. So what I did was once I decided I was going to start small, right? I'm just going to go with NOBA because it got a lot of really good reviews, and stop obsessing over all of these other resources that are out there. And so I took the course outline of record and I started to explore what NOBA has to offer, because NOBA has some already pre-made textbooks with they call them modules rather than chapters because they're short. So standard textbook might have a 30 or 40 page chapter on research methods, whereas NOBA might have 3 10-page modules that all cover that same content. So I took my COR and the content there, and I looked to see what NOBA had to offer. And through that, I created a customized textbook. So it looks like that. And my first semester that I used it, which was, I'm looking at my notes here, but I wrote too small, I can't see it without my glasses on, was fall 2016. I actually had our copy center printed as well. This is all Creative Commons. So I could have it printed at the copy center and distribute it to my students. So I did that for a little while. I have stopped doing that. Well, now we're all online, so now it's all online. And you can see that I also created a choose a module assignment for my students. So if they wanted to explore some other topics that I wasn't covering. And NOBA has instructor resources. So if you're worried about instructor resources, there are OER products that come with resources, right? So adaptive student quizzes and a test bank and homework assignments. I don't use a whole lot of that. I like to create my own homework assignments and whatnot, but NOBA does have those available. And then there were certain topics on the OER, on the COR, on the course outline of record, that I just wasn't really happy with what NOBA had to offer. I ended up corresponding with the editor of NOBA, and it turns out that he attended Fresno City College in 1965, which was super cool. And so he's a local person that started the NOBA project. And we correspond every now and then, and I say, hey, you need this, you need that. One of the things that I love about NOBA is that, and that I like about OER in general, is that because it's not just a textbook that has one or two authors, you can get resources, OER materials from lots of different authors. So lots of different perspectives. From an equity perspective, right? You can really start to explore authors from, all over the world. It's one of the criticisms that I have of NOBA is that the authorship's not very diverse. And that was one of the conversations that I had with the publisher. With the lead editor. And he said, we know that basically I'm just asking the people that I know in psychology who are experts in the field if they're willing to write something for free, right? And so he's gathering that way. So I wanted to kind of show you what I've been doing. Actually look at my class structure. Let's see. So let's go to I have everything in modular format. And in week five, I have my sensation and perception content. And I actually didn't like anything that NOBA had to offer for sensation and perception. So I've really just mixed and matched my own stuff. So I've created my own videos. Oh, I guess I should have mentioned that I took a sabbatical leave, which was all just creating my own instructional videos to share with the department and to use in my class as open and free material. So this 7-minute video is one that I made myself in Screencast-O-Matic. But I've also started to use material from OpenStax. You heard something about OpenStax already. And I'm going to take like maybe 2 more minutes and then I'll stop. But I've also just like snipped a couple of paragraphs. This is 2 paragraphs from OpenStax that I felt was missing from the content. But I wanted it to be there for my students. So I snipped it from OpenStax and I just created a Canvas page. They're just reading this one page. And then Sally helped me to make sure that I'm giving the right attribution for it right there, right? So there's the Creative Commons attribution for it. And I've done that with a couple of different things. I'll show you in week 6. So I'm making you dizzy by scrolling. In week 6, I have links to a NOBA module. And then I also have here a link out to APA website. And And then down further, I have videos that I have created myself. So everything is free and open, and my students don't have to worry about, purchasing anything. I also utilize TED Talks quite a bit. So I think if we go to week 12, sorry, week 12, I have
Oh, I think she froze. Marianne, you're kind of breaking up.
I froze.
Well, okay, now we got you back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, something did happen. So this links out to an open source, right? OER services and open source chapter. So they do some reading, and then we have some videos that I created myself, and then I have some TED Talks. So I have it organized on the page, and they're able to mark the page done when they're done with it. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I really love the LibreText idea so that it's organized in one place. So I'm going to look into that, and that's my next step in my process, is to be able to pull it all together in a maybe a more unified way rather than the way that I have it. Although my students are telling me that the way that I have things organized in modules, they're finding that easy to navigate. And I do have it set up so that they can mark things done as they go, so that they can remember what they've read and what they've watched already. So that's me and my story. Any questions?
There were two questions. One, they asked, is NOVA specifically for psychology?
Yes, it's NOBA, NOBA, and
NOVA, okay. And then I wanted to know how how your students mark that they've completed the assignment.
lots of open resources, in other disciplines.
No, how did your students mark that they've completed each of those sections?
Are you still seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, because I keep trying to press the stop share button. So this is something that you set up in Canvas. So that's a Canvas question.
Can you share?
Materials.
Yeah, so Sue Yang would be a great person to talk to about that. And I
All
think
right.
she's also asking a question here. Yeah.
Su Yang is asking to anyone in the panel, how long did it take you to curate all your OER materials? I don't know who in the panel would like to answer her.
When I do my little thing, that's mainly what I'm gonna talk about is our process and how long it took. We are still in process, technically, or ending process, yeah.
It took me about 3 semesters. The first semester I used the book. The second semester I used a different OER. And then I tried to use both of the books combined, and then finally got the two mixes together and get my homework exactly the way I wanted it in an OER.
I got kicked out.
I know, sorry. I didn't know I was gonna do that so fast. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think your connection there is okay. And oh, and are we recording, by the way? Yeah, did you
Yes.
remember? Okay, okay, just making sure. Susie was in here and that reminded me that we need to do that. Okay, so any more questions for Mary Ann before I start going on and on? Let me open the chat here so I can kind of sort of see if you guys are saying anything. Okay. Okay, so as I was saying before, a couple things, you know, once I kind of was introduced to OER, I was very, very determined to create, you know, just to create these no-cost courses. And with Ling, we have two Ling classes, linguistic classes, Linguistics 10 and Linguistics 11. I use the same book for both. They're almost the same. 11 is geared towards educators as part of the credential program at Fresno State. And so it's a little different, but most people use the same textbook for both. And like I said, the textbook, not good. So I, you know, immediately started looking, OpenStax, nothing, you know, Merlot, nothing, you know, all these places, I could not find anything. We found one full textbook, but it wasn't really appropriate for a couple of reasons. One, it was too advanced. It's more like for upper division linguistics, and then it was also Canadian, so the pronunciation part was totally wrong for us. So, you know, like a third of the book we couldn't even use. So Jean Carroll, the formidable Jean Carroll, if any of you know her, she retired last spring. She and I set out on this mission to do this. And we started small. I want to give you just an overview of what the module looks like, because what I want to emphasize here is, if you can, and if you are in a position where you find that you have to do a lot of work, a really great thing to do is to get a partner or a small group and go at it that way. So Jean is really good at research, and I'm really good at the Canvas design. And so together, you know, we put these two courses together and we're just really, really happy with them. But again, they're not totally completely finished, and I'll show you what that kind of looks like. So this is just a real typical module that we have in Ling 11. Starts out with the overview page, and then I'm going to attempt to go on student view so you can see what it looks like as students. Sometimes it gets a little glitchy though with Zoom. So if it's something happens, let me know, shout out, or sometimes my images don't appear too. Okay, so this is a quiz, and what we found here is a chapter from an ebook from the library. And you can see it has the information here. This was a PDF. The entire book was a PDF, and so I pulled it out and I took this chapter. I believe it's even a part of a chapter. I don't even think it's the full chapter. I think it doesn't have the exercises at the end or the summary at the end or something. And so this is, you know, what they read, and then they take the quiz, and you know, this little video, just a video on YouTube that we found to kind of, you know, get them thinking about it. So that's kind of the first thing in the module. Typical textbook. And then now we're getting a little more specific with our next topic, which is you know, something that's specific here. And so we've got a couple of little just videos that don't really have a whole lot of information in them, but they just kind of give the overview. And then there is a website that we found. And, you know, looking through these websites, yeah, of course, you know, this random dude, Mark Lieberman from University of Pennsylvania, no idea who he is. He does have this website here, and I'll show you if I can what his, yeah, it looks like this. It's not, you know, real pretty, and I have serious doubts that this is accessible. So what I did was just grab this and made it into a Word document. I could turn this into a PDF as well, but I took all of his pictures and put the alt text on them. So it's got some really, that's not a good picture, but it's cool. These pictures, all of this stuff on here, and then found a couple of videos where they can see the two different types of aphasia. They can actually hear. So this is really, you know, kind of, again, a, you know, textbook chapter, and but we're giving them a little more information, and it's much better for students who want to read something but then also want to listen to something. It's a better experience for them. Okay, and then the last thing is a discussion board, and then this again is just, oh, it's not going to open up for me here. Oh, there it goes. This is just, again, from a website. It has a ton of links, and, you know, I'm enough of an expert. So, and I was going to say this about the Mark Lieberman's website as well. You know, I'm enough of an expert to where I can read something and I can see, yeah, that's appropriate, that makes sense, or no. It does take a little time to do that, but maybe I should be doing that for any textbook, right? Checking to see what it says before I just throw it at my students. I don't know. So not too much work involved there. Okay, so here's this other assignment, and this actually does send them out. Now, this, I don't love this because it's got all these links. It's sending them out everywhere. It's a little chaotic. So I don't know if I'll be able to change anything about that, but this is basically, you know, what we've done for each week is have like a main reading with an assessment, and then these other little assessments. And so one of the things that has come up in our talks a lot is, you know, where do you put the textbook? How do you give the textbook to students? So I don't have like a separate page or a separate sheet that says, here is the textbook. In fact, my syllabus has a statement on it that says, this class does not have a textbook. Everything that you need to read is on Canvas. And so they are not having to walk around with any papers or any extra, you know, digital things or anything like that. They just read this article for the assessment, and then they move on. And, you know, sometimes if they have to go back to an article in the past, then I'll link back to it. And so it's very, you know, easy and clear for them. I want to show you this module because this one is a really good representation of what Jean and I did. So if anybody knows Jean or knew Jean, knows Jean, she's still alive. Okay, she's not, she's just no longer with us in Fresno. She lives in Kentucky now. And so you know, if anyone knows her, she is the perfect person to suffer from what I call senioritis, when you have those longtime faculty members that are at like the last like 2 years of their career, and they're sort of like, ugh, I can't wait to get out of here. This is terrible. I just want to get done. So when she was, what was this, like about 3 or 4 years before she retired, I dragged her into this project, and I cannot believe how, oh, you know what's going to happen is, it's going to get messed up. So let me read this real quick while I'm thinking of it. So I dragged her into this project, and she just got so excited. I mean, she was doing all this research, finding like all of these really cool things. Like every week she would come running into my office. Guess what I found? This is the coolest thing. And honestly, I was kind of working on the 11 and she was kind of working on the 10. And a lot of times I said, oh yeah, that looks good, but I didn't really look at it that carefully. And then when I took over her class after she retired, I found like all of these great gems. This is one of the things that I kind of like, oh yeah, Jean, that looks great, but I didn't really look at it that carefully. So this is, starts off with our quiz here. And again, let me put it in student view for you. So this is a documentary called American Tongues. It's super old, it's from the 80s, but it is absolutely fantastic. You know, I have the DVD, and with my face-to-face classes, I show it, and we have all these handouts, we talk about it. It's about an hour long. It's really, really great. And it is many times illegally posted on online. It's originally, I don't want this to go, but I want to pull up this copy link for you so you can see what it is. Yeah, a lot of times it'll be up on YouTube illegally, probably. It's a PBS or POV documentary. And so you know, sometimes they would put it up and then it would be taken down, and I'd always be chasing it, you know, all for my online classes, which is not ideal. But I did find it on this site, Daily Motion. I'm not, you know, 100% familiar with what this is, but they do have a number of videos here. And so far, for the last few semesters, it's been here. I don't have to sign in. I just grab the embed code and put it into my class. And so here's my documentary that I would normally show to my class. And so I've got the quiz, link it out to the Harvard Dialects Survey, and then they can look at this. And then the next thing is an assignment. And this is something I found that was published by the Linguistics Society of America. I mean, this is like the organization for linguistics. So you can go straight to the website here. And I took the second page of it because the first page was just like the title page, and, you know, put the PDF in here, just has the background of it. And then this article, I haven't been able to, I have started working on this a couple times, but this thing is a huge mess in terms of accessibility. My goal is to rewrite this, because there are tons of these online. You can find this type of thing, you know, all over the place if you were to Google this. But I really like the way that this one is set up, and I want to just make it look a little bit nicer and make it into a document. So this is what you would see in a linguistics textbook right here, is you would see, you know, this listed with all the different, you know, things here, what the students would come across. So that's kind of the extent of what they would have in the linguistics textbook, and it would just be kind of stopping there. So we've got our assignment here, which is to kind of, you know, basically check for understanding, a little bit of analysis, but mostly just check for understanding. And then this is the really cool part, okay? This is the part that no linguistics textbook will have, and Jean made this, and it is absolutely awesome. So it starts with this little movie clip. If you've seen this, it's called Sorry to Bother You is the name of the movie. And it's just a little trailer of it, but it's basically about these guys code switching between standard English and African-American English. And so just, you know, watch it, get an idea of what it is. And then it has information here. Jean wrote a lot of this. Jean likes these big like walls of text. I do not. So this is where I come in. She, you know, transcribes all of this stuff, puts all of her thoughts down, and then I go in and edit. I make videos of this stuff. But this is, you know, so much. This is what I wanted to show you, that this is like not quite done, and I'm not happy with this. I'm definitely working on this. I mean, this part right here probably needs to be taken out. And we could do a whole week on just the word woke in this class. It's really, really, you know, a lot of information here, probably too much for students. But it's got the ad, it talks about the Oakland School Board controversy with Ebonics, and anyone who's over probably age 38 knows what I'm talking about. If you don't, it's very interesting. I'll let you know about that. And so this part right here is our discussion that we get to, and we never would have been able to incorporate anything like this in our courses if we hadn't taken this journey, right? We just stick with the same, you know, kind of basic OER, you know, or regular textbook stuff where they're just kind of feeding the information, maybe find a couple of, you know, TED Talks or YouTube videos, and then just end it. But we came up with this really, really cool assignment that has so much information in it. And it really, really has improved our class. And of course, this is what the students like, right? When they come to the class, they talk about this, the assessments that we get back, talk about how, you know, all this great information, you know, really interesting information that they can really dig their teeth into. And this is hitting those objectives and SLOs much, much better than, sorry, pretend like you're not looking at my actual live students right now. You know, hitting those SLOs much, much better. Oh, I have it right here, than this. You know, this is like the information, it's not really, they're just remembering this and but they're not truly understanding it. So that's what I'm just really excited about. So yeah, just to recap, get a partner, get someone who is also excited about your discipline. You know, it is work, but this is what we love. You know, this is our discipline that we spent all these years of our lives, you know, studying and teaching, and we love this stuff. And so researching this is fun. It really was a lot of fun, and we had a blast doing it. We're still in the process of doing this. And yeah, when I got to this week last semester in the class, I had to text G to go, oh my gosh, that assignment was so great. I never paid attention to it before. Just really, really cool. Yeah, so I see that there's a lot of information or a lot of questions or comments over here in the chat. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing right now. And
It's mostly just me babbling on.
okay. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's mostly just comments.
Yeah, so yeah, any other questions or anything?
Sally, I have a question, and this can be for any of the panelists, Joellen or Marianne, because I think it feeds it, and I like how honest you are about, you know, saying like, well, I'm not quite happy with this page. It still needs some work, and I want to continue to improve it, because I think that's also part of OER, is continually going back and looking at it and making it, like Marianne said, relevant and timely and better than it was. But I'm curious what your maintenance process is like. Is that because we make like those libguides in the library, and that can be very time consuming, going back and making sure like all the links are still working. We change databases, we add something, you know. And so I'm just wondering, with your courses, what that process is like.
Yeah, so it's constant, right? It's a constant thing. And oh my gosh, what are we even in right now? Yeah, last semester was my first time teaching English 1A fully online. And so the maintenance that I did on the Link classes was 0, because I was almost building that from scratch, right? And 1A, English 1A is a lot more work with, you know, with everything. So now I'm not teaching it this semester. I only have linguistics classes. So now I'm able to just devote a lot more time to it. And a lot of times it's from students when they, they don't understand something, they're confused about something, or a link doesn't work, and then they, send you the email, this doesn't work. That's one reason why it's really good to just answer those students, look at your emails as much as possible, because then that will save you from having to answer the 5 other students who will notice it the next day. And you can, fix it then. So in terms of websites disappearing, when you do make those PDFs or those Word documents and embed them, then that eliminates that. And it's just a slow process. And I would say the 3-semester rule is kind of the, those of you who are teaching online for the first time last semester kind of know this, that the first semester that you teach online, you just are throwing all your material in there. You're just giving it to them. The second semester, you have the ability to now, everything's collected. Now you can start organizing it. The third semester is when you can actually teach the students. That's when you can actually relax. Everything's pretty much there, and then you're on maintenance mode. So it does take some time. It's not an automatic thing. And one reason why, whenever especially lately when I'm doing little OER talks, I just really encourage people to don't just say, oh yeah, I'm just going to build this from scratch in one semester. It takes a while. We were building it and then still using our textbook, and then got to the point where we were using about half of the textbook, about half OER, and then it was summer. And I'm like, okay, I'm just pulling the plug. I'm just going to cut it off and I'm just going to go for it. Summer, it's the only thing I have to do. And I just, it was a lot of work, but I was able to devote time to just doing that. And then the subsequent, then after summer, then you got to kind of expand a little bit. So it depends is the answer. Sorry.
What I do, I've gotten my course where I want it, and I have the OER textbook, and I also have the OER homework, and that took a little while to make sure I had all the kinks out of that. But I run the links every semester, making sure that all my links are not, there's no dead links in my class. And once I've done that, I feel pretty confident that I won't receive something, and you will receive the email in that there is a broken link in your Canvas course if that occurs.
Go ahead, Beth.
I'm wondering if you can comment on using materials like this if you're teaching in person. I would use
the same homework, the same textbook if I was teaching in person. And before we went online, I was teaching the particular book in person. And the homework, OER homework, I was also teaching with that too.
Yeah, I was using OER in my face-to-face class before we went online.
Yeah, and my face-to-face class looks very similar to my online class. I have the modules, set up the same way. It's so almost sort of like a flipped classroom where I have them do the reading and the quizzes ahead of time, and then we will in the classroom we'll get together, and that's where we do like the exercises, work through the exercises, do discussions. I do a lot of like things where they work in groups to do something, put it up on the posters around the wall and walk around like that kind of thing in class. And so so I'm not sitting there lecturing, but because I have my little mini lectures and my material up, and then I just put the due dates like the week before to kind of front load them. And then when they get to class, then we, do it like that. Yeah.
So to what degree I just started this past semester, and so it's been all online. So I haven't been in a classroom at all there. To what degree is there like the opportunity to use some tech actually in the classroom would I have to bring my own laptop, for instance? Is there a way to like connect things to a screen, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's probably real similar to what you had in high school, I would imagine, or at least what they have in at Fresno Unified, where you have like your little smart thing that has your, the teacher computer, and it's hooked up to a document camera, and then you can, project what's on your computer, and or you can project what's, a paper on your document camera. You can play, I think. Yeah, you'd probably be teaching upstairs in the LA building. So it's not like painted or anything nice, but the projectors are up there at least. Yeah. The computer.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Anyone else has questions for the panelists?
And I just love putting everything on Canvas, because then I don't have to carry anything around. Just all right there.
We also, in psychology, we had John Wilson create a Canvas site for the psych department. So the psych department has their own Canvas site where we share materials there. So then we can steal from each other.
We actually have a district linguistics site. So
Oh, cool.
we have, yeah, I know. So we have collaborated with, it's a little weird because I'm given like our like our Readly people. They don't teach it in Clovis, but I don't know if they do in Madera or not, but yeah, the people in Readly, we're giving them their materials. They kind of, we compete for students, but we're all friends, we all know each other. So yeah, so we just have modules, we have topics, and we just put stuff in there and then draw from it. And haven't taken the step to put things on Canvas Commons yet. I'm just a little nervous about that. I will eventually, but not yet.
Well, having learned how to use Canvas, I can't imagine giving it up. I mean, it's a great resource even when you're teaching in person.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I can tell, I'm the only German teacher in the entire district, so there is no partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if there might be some folks at Fresno State that you might want to connect with.
Yes, Amila, I've already spoken with her, and she's already into, I mean, she's created all of her own materials. She doesn't use a textbook anymore. So
Yeah.
I've been picking her brain as well. Yeah.
Okay, well, it looks like we're at the end of our time here. So I think we can go ahead and stop recording.